Good evening and welcome to tonight's Elyria Rules Committee meeting, Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. We have two items on the agenda. The first one would be the approval of the May 25th, 2022 rules meeting minutes. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion made and properly second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say nay. Motion carried. Second item is the matter of a charter amendment regarding proposed Article 3, Section 3.12, vacancies in council. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Just kidding.
Anybody have any questions?
Sorry about that. Through Mr. Chair, getting it on the floor for discussion? Yes? Okay.
Yes. Second.
All right.
All in favor, aye.
Yes.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Okay. You're just for discussion purposes. So
I'm sorry?
you asked for a vote for discussion.
Discussion?
Yes.
Okay, so now we have to do it.
Well, if there's any discussion, you can go forward and read the committee report.
Do we have any discussion on this? Mr. Lippian?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. Help me understand, just to clarify, are we only voting on it being for discussion today, or are we voting for this to be whether or not it should be passed out of committee today?
Do you have the committee report? Okay. Through you, Mr. Chair, and one moment to the committee. The committee report's being prepared right now, so just so you know. But to answer the question, no, obviously that would be up to the committee ultimately. If this is a matter of discussion, I would let committee know that if you are looking for this matter to go to the ballot in May, that this matter would need to be decided and move forward to to full council this evening, so that the legislation could be passed and would make its way to the Board of Elections prior to the deadline of February 1st. That doesn't mean then that this issue would be foreclosed. It just would mean that you'd be looking at it to go to ballot at a later point in time.
So if we're set, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of a charter amendment.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, point of order. Before you do, Mr. Brunick had his hand up to speak.
I'm sorry?
Thank you.
I just didn't know, thank you, Mrs. Mitchell, I just didn't know if the committee needed any kind of synopsis of this, just for the record. If you wanted me to, I could just give you a brief explanation of how this came to be and why why this has been proposed and what we're asking for, but that's at the chair's discretion. So.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, at this time, as far as I know, and I guess Assistant Law Director Bruning can explain if this is exactly the same thing that we discussed last year. So just for clarification purposes, I believe that maybe we should hear from Mr. Bruning.
Mr. Bruning?
Thank you. So what you have in front of you is a proposed charter amendment to fix what I would call as a quirk in the charter as it's currently written, where if there are no members of council of the same political party as a member who is resigning or who has vacated the seat, then council does not have the ability to actually appoint the replacement to that person. I don't know that that was intentional when this charter provision was written initially, but again, through what I would call a quirk in the language, that loophole sort of exists, and what we're trying to do is give you the opportunity, if you so choose, to close that loophole and permit council to replace a vacated seat. As the law department and as the charter commission initially proposed this, the vacated seat, the person replacing the vacated seat when council chooses that had to be of the same political party as the person vacating. But if there was no political party, then council was not bound by that. They could replace him with any person, regardless of political party, if they had an affiliation or if they did not. There was an amendment brought to that language that stated that if there was no affiliation, if it was an independent that vacated the seat, that council still gets to pick the replacement, but council has to pick another independent, someone without party affiliation. That was the only change. Otherwise, it's the same language that the Charter Review Commission proposed last year, and that law director and I prepared that language for. So that's what's in front of you, and that's what would go if you pass this committee report. That would go on to full council later this evening.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bruning. Mr. Lippian?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to thank Assistant Law Director Eric Brunig for that artful explanation of what's before you today. It came to my attention as well when I read the charter, and I reached out to the law department, and thankfully they quickly created a charter amendment that expressed what I think is an answer to the normative question: do nonpartisan members of council have the right to enjoy the same rights and benefits of partisan members of council in the event of a vacancy? And I do agree with Eric Brunig, Assistant Director Brunig. It's not clear if it was intended that the charter reflect that currently independents do not enjoy the same rights and benefits as partisan members do in the event of a vacancy. It's not clear that that was the intention. So as far as the letter of the law with the rest of the charter, it seems like this would be a relatively non-controversial charter amendment. It would be in line with the moral of consistency, because it would put the rest of the charter squarely in line with the event of nonpartisan vacancies. And I hope my fellow council colleagues would agree that this is fair, eminently fair, and relatively non-controversial. And I want to thank the law department for drafting it.
Mr. Tolet?
Also, for the record, that member of council, should they resign, pass away, God forbid, or anything else, their party is determined by how they vote, not how they ran. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the vacating member's party affiliation or non-party affiliation, as the case may be, is determined by whether or not he or she or they voted in a party primary during the year of their election to council.
Thank you.
Also, I'll term it the incoming member or potential member, that person's party affiliation or non-party affiliation, as the case may be, would be determined by the most recent party primary, due to the fact that that person may not have voting history going back to the election in question. The idea behind that is fulfilling what the intent of the voters were when they selected that member of council, and the vacancy would be filled to the end of the term of that person who was leaving. So just trying to, again, fulfill what the intent of the voters were.
Thank you, Director. We have any other questions, Mr. Callahan?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just a comment. I think going forward, clarifying this, I think it's a good thing. And I think it's fair, as Mr. Lippian had said. But I think the whole thing is just clarification going forward. We'll put it crystal clear on how this is written going forward. So I support this.
Mr. Lippian?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilman Callahan, and all my colleagues that have given comment to this. It is interesting and maybe an opportunity for a teachable moment that as a registered libertarian, we often complain about what we call the duopoly. No offense to my Republican and Democrat colleagues on council, but we don't get primaries anymore because we don't have ballot access anymore. A presidential candidate needs to achieve a certain percentage of a vote in order for the Libertarians to get ballot access and have a primary, or an obscene amount of signatures has to be collected nationwide. And it makes it very difficult for a third party to have that opportunity for a primary. So therefore, it disenfranchises them a little bit. And so the independent issue does come up. I initially thought this didn't apply to me because I did vote in a Libertarian primary, but that was a few years back when we had those in the good old days, I guess you could say. Maybe they'll come back. But I guess now I am aware that this does apply to me, according to what I heard the law director say, since I wasn't able to vote in a primary in the last year because the Libertarians, as I said, can't have them anymore at the moment. So this would be a healthy breath of fresh air and the ability for us to have that free and fair and balanced voice. And I thank you all for entertaining this charter amendment.
Any other questions or comments? I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of a charter amendment regarding proposed Article 3, Section 3.12, vacancies in council. Can I get a motion? Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. If there's no further business, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.